I heard my boss call me a relic, while I was the one who built the entire system this company runs on from day one. They thought I was too old, too slow, just another dinosaur secretary who couldn't keep up with their shiny new world. They had no idea that the keys to their kingdom were still in my pocket. And when they threw me out like yesterday's trash, they forgot one crucial detail. Sometimes the old guard knows secrets the young ones never bothered to learn. My name is Elaine Marshall, and at 47, I'd given Bramwell and Knox the best years of my life. 22 years, to be exact. I started when the firm was just 3 lawyers and a dream, working out of a converted Victorian house on South Congress. Now they occupied 2 floors of a glass tower downtown, with 60 attorneys and a CEO who probably couldn't spell brief without autocorrect. That CEO was Shayla Darnell, 32, with an MBA from Wharton and heels that cost more than my monthly car payment. She swept in 6 months ago with promises of modernization and synergy, words that made my skin crawl every time they tumbled from her glossy lips. I wasn't just any secretary, I was the executive secretary, the one who'd built their entire digital filing system from scratch back in 2008, the one who knew where every skeleton was buried, every contract stored, every client's preference down to how they took their coffee. But to Shayla and her fresh-faced management team, I was furniture. Worse than furniture, I was outdated furniture they couldn't wait to toss. The whispers started during their Friday afternoon innovation sessions. They thought the conference room walls were thicker than they actually were. Or maybe they just didn't care if I heard. We need fresh energy. Shayla's voice carried through the thin partition. Someone who gets our vision. Marshall's been here forever. That was Brad, the new COO, barely 30 himself. She's reliable, but she's a slow dinosaur secretary. Shayla finished. I swear. Watching her type is like watching paint dry. And don't get me started on her resistance to the new software platforms. My fingers stilled on the keyboard. Slow. I could type 90 words per minute. Thank you very much. As for the new software, I'd mastered it in a week. I just preferred the systems I'd built myself. Systems that had never crashed, never lost a file, never failed a single audit. The clients love her, though. Someone ventured, probably Jessica from HR. The only one with a conscience in that room. Clients adapt, Shayla said dismissively. We're building a firm for the future, not a museum for the past. I want her gone by end of quarter. I saved the document I'd been working on, a merger agreement that would make the firm millions, and leaned back in my chair. They wanted me gone? Fine. But they had no idea what they were asking for. I wasn't just the keeper of their files and schedules. I was the keeper of something far more valuable, something they'd forgotten in their rush to worship at the altar of youth and innovation. They thought I was too old to keep up with their digital world. They were about to learn that sometimes. Being there from the beginning means you hold keys that no amount of Wharton education can replicate. The slow dinosaur was about to show them what extinction really looked like. The isolation began on Monday morning. I arrived at 7:30, as I had for 2 decades, to find a young woman sitting at the desk adjacent to mine, a desk that had been empty since we'd moved to this floor. Hi, I'm Kayla Burns. She bounced up like a golden retriever, all blonde highlights and enthusiasm. I'm your new assistant. I'm the new executive support specialist. We're supposed to work together. Executive support specialist. They'd created a position to make me redundant. Elaine Marshall, I said, setting down my coffee. Welcome to Bramwell and Knox. Within hours, I understood the game. Emails that used to come directly to me were now CC'd to both of us, then gradually shifted to Kayla as primary. The partner meetings I'd attended for years. We're trying a new format, Elaine. We'll loop you in if we need anything. The IT updates I'd always handled. Kayla's got some fresh ideas about streamlining. Fresh ideas, like typing with 2 fingers and asking me 3 times how to format a legal citation. By Wednesday, I was a ghost in my own office. Partners who used to stop by for coffee and gossip now walked past without a glance. The junior associates I'd mentored, who knew I kept chocolate in my drawer for rough days, suddenly found reasons to avoid my corner of the floor. It's nothing personal, Jessica from HR said during our check-in meeting Thursday afternoon. She couldn't meet my eyes. The firm is evolving. Your role is evolving too. Into what? I asked, keeping my voice steady. Well, we thought you might enjoy focusing on more specialized tasks, filing, archive management, things that suit your experience level. Experience level? Code for old. I smiled. Of course. Whatever the firm needs. Friday came like a guillotine. Elaine, could you join us in conference room B? Jessica's email popped up at 4:47 p.m. Perfect timing, late enough that most people had gone home, early enough to clear out my desk before Monday. The room held Shayla, Brad, Jessica, and a man I didn't recognize, outside counsel, judging by his expression of professional detachment. A folder lay on the table like a coffin. Elaine, Shayla began, her voice dripping with fake concern. I want to start by saying how much we've valued your contributions over the years. 22 years, I said quietly. Yes. Well. She cleared her throat. The firm is restructuring. We're eliminating redundancies and modernizing our operations. Unfortunately, your position is being dissolved. Dissolved? I let the word hang. Like sugar in water. Brad shifted uncomfortably. We're prepared to offer a generous severance package, 2 weeks' pay, continuation of health benefits through the month, and this. The lawyer pushed a document across the table. A standard non-disclosure agreement. It protects both parties' interests. I scanned it. Standard boilerplate about not discussing internal matters, not disparaging the firm, not disclosing proprietary information or trade secrets. The irony almost made me laugh. We'll need your keycard, company laptop, and any passwords for systems you've been managing, Shayla added. Kayla will handle the transition. Kayla, who that morning had asked me how to open a PDF? Of course. I signed the NDA without hesitation, watching Shayla's eyes light up with relief. She thought she'd won. I'll have everything ready by 5:30. Take your time, Jessica said gently. We know this is difficult. Difficult. Like they had any idea. I returned to my desk and methodically packed my personal items. The photo of my late husband, the crystal paperweight the founding partners had given me for my 10th anniversary, the emergency sewing kit I'd used to fix more wardrobe malfunctions than I could count. I wrote down every password they'd asked for. Email, filing systems, client databases. Everything except one. Because they hadn't asked about that one. No one even remembered it existed. As I placed my keycard on the desk, I looked around the office one last time, at the systems I'd built, the processes I'd perfected, the foundation I'd laid that let them grow from 3 lawyers to 60. They thought they were getting rid of dead weight. They had no idea they'd just cut their own lifeline. I walked out at 5:33 p.m., cardboard box in hand, past the motivational posters about innovation and thinking outside the box. Shayla was right about one thing. I was a relic. A relic who remembered things everyone else had forgotten. Important things. Expensive things. They'd learned soon enough that some antiques are priceless, and some dinosaurs. They didn't go extinct. They evolved. That weekend, I sat in my home office, staring at a certificate on the wall that most people would overlook. ELOC Document Management System, registered to Marshall Systems, LLC. My little side project from 2008, born from frustration with the firm's chaotic paper files and their refusal to invest in proper software. I'd built it myself over nights and weekends, teaching myself coding from library books and online forums. When I'd presented it to the founding partners, they'd been amazed. This is exactly what we need, Elaine. Can we use it? Of course, I'd said, eager to help. We'd drawn up a simple licensing agreement. The firm could use ELOC for a modest annual fee, renewing automatically unless either party gave notice. It seemed like a win-win. They got custom software perfectly tailored to their needs. And I got a small side income and the satisfaction of solving a problem. Over the years, eLock became the firm's digital backbone. Every document, every client file, every piece of correspondence flowed through my system. As the firm grew, so did eLock, with modules I'd added for scheduling, billing, conflicts checking. The younger staff probably assumed it was just another piece of enterprise software, purchased from some tech giant. They were wrong. I pulled up the original contract on my personal laptop, Marshall Systems copy. Not theirs. Section 6.2 was clear. License terminates automatically upon non-payment or failure to respond to renewal notices within 30 days. The renewal date? March 15th, exactly 1 week after they terminated me. The system still showed me as the registered administrator. They'd never transferred ownership, never even asked about it. Why would they? I'd handled the technical details for so long, it had become invisible to them. Just like me. I logged into the Marshall Systems email account I'd maintained separately all these years. 3 renewal notices sat in the sent folder, all addressed to Bramwell and Knox's billing department, all unopened. They'd probably been filtered as spam or ignored as routine vendor correspondence. The ethical thing would be to call them, explain the situation, work out a transition plan. The professional thing would be to ensure continuity of service, maybe even offer a discounted rate for the disruption. But they hadn't been ethical when they'd called me a dinosaur. They hadn't been professional when they'd given me 4 minutes notice after 22 years. I opened a new email and typed carefully, "Dear Bramwell and Knox, this is your final notice regarding the eLock Document Management System license renewal. As previous notices have gone unanswered, Marshall Systems, LLC must assume you no longer require our services. Per Section 6.2 of our agreement, system access will terminate at 9 a.m. on March 15th unless renewal payment of $5,000 is received by 5 p.m. on March 14th. To maintain uninterrupted service for your 60 attorneys and 200-plus active clients, please remit payment to the account on file. Regards, E. Marshall President, Marshall Systems, LLC." I scheduled it to send Monday morning at 8 a.m., giving them 3 full business days to respond. More than fair. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I pulled up eLock's source code, my code. Every line written by these slow fingers they'd mocked. The authentication protocols, the encryption keys, the backup systems. All of it responding to commands only I fully understood. I didn't add any malicious code, didn't need to. The system was designed to protect client confidentiality above all else. Without valid authentication, it would lock down completely, encrypting everything with keys that would take years to crack. It was a feature, not a bug. Protection against data breaches that had saved them from liability more than once. They just never imagined they'd be locked out of their own files. I spent the rest of the weekend organizing my garage, finally tackling projects I'd put off for years. I planted new roses in the garden. The pink climbers my husband had always wanted, but I'd been too busy to maintain. I even started reading the mystery novel that had been gathering dust on my nightstand since Christmas. When Monday came, I didn't check my email until noon. The Marshall Systems inbox remained empty except for the usual spam. No response from Bramwell and Knox. No urgent calls on the business line. Tuesday passed the same way. Wednesday too. They had one more business day to save themselves. One email, one phone call, one acknowledgement that the system they'd built their practice on wasn't just another piece of furniture to be discarded when it no longer matched the decor. But I knew they wouldn't respond. Why would they? It was just some automated vendor notice, probably for software they'd forgotten they were still paying for. Kayla or whoever was handling such things now would delete it without a second thought. After all, what could one old secretary possibly do to a firm full of bright young innovators? They were about to find out. Thursday morning arrived with spring sunshine and the scent of my new roses. I made French toast, something I hadn't done on a weekday in 20 years, and checked the Marshall Systems email one last time. Nothing from Bramwell and Knox, but there was something interesting, an auto-forward from their IT department's ticket system. Vendor, Marshall Systems, status, resolved. Note, spam, solicitation, no action required. K. Burns. Kayla. Of course. I drafted one final email, timestamped 2:47 p.m. Notice of license termination. As we have received no response to our renewal notices, Marshall Systems LLC formally notifies Bramwell and Knox that your license to use eLock document management system expires at 9 a.m. tomorrow, March 15th. Per our agreement, all system access will be revoked and data encrypted for security. This action is automatic and irreversible without a new license agreement. If you wish to prevent service interruption, payment must be received by 5 p.m. today. This is your final notice. I marked it high priority and requiring read receipt. Then I went to my pottery class, something else I'd always wanted to try but never had time for. At 4:58 p.m., my phone buzzed. A read receipt from Bramwell and Knox, opened by one Dr. Martinez in IT. I didn't know any Martinez, must be another new hire. 2 minutes to deadline, and they just opened the email. My phone rang at 5:01 p.m., unknown number. Mrs. Marshall, this is David Martinez from Bramwell and Knox IT. We just saw your email about some system. I'm not showing any Marshall systems in our vendor database. The deadline was 5 o'clock, Mr. Martinez. But I just opened it. Look, if this is about an old invoice or something, it's about your entire document management system. eLock, the platform your firm runs on. Silence. Then, you mean our proprietary system? I almost laughed. eLock is proprietary, yes. To Marshall Systems, LLC, which is me. Your license expired at 5 o'clock. That's impossible. We built that system internally. No, Mr. Martinez, I built that system in 2008. Check your contracts database. Oh wait, you won't be able to access it after 9 tomorrow morning. This is extortion. This is business. Good evening, Mr. Martinez. I turned off my phone and went to bed at 9:30, sleeping better than I had in months. Friday, March 15th. I woke at 6, made coffee, and sat in my garden to watch the sunrise. At 8:45 a.m., I powered on my laptop and logged into eLock's admin panel. All systems showed green. 63 active users already logged in at Bramwell and Knox, busy billing hours, filing motions, accessing client files. 8:55 a.m., 71 active users. 8:58 a.m., 74 active users. 8:59 a.m., I typed the command I'd hoped I'd never have to use. Revoke license BK 2008-001. Confirm? My finger hovered over the enter key. 22 years, good times and bad, celebrations and late nights. People I'd genuinely cared about before they decided I was disposable. 9 a.m. Enter. The screen flashed. License revoked, encrypting data, all users logged out. I closed my laptop and made another cup of coffee. The roses really were lovely this year. At 9:07 a.m., my landline rang. I let it go to voicemail. 9:09 a.m., my cell phone buzzed. I turned it back on out of curiosity. 14 missed calls already. 9:13 a.m., the doorbell rang. I ignored it. 9:27 a.m., a text from an unknown number. Urgent. This is Shayla Darnell. Please call immediately. Emergency at firm. Emergency. Like being told you're redundant after decades of service. 9:45 a.m., voicemail from Brad. Elaine, please. We can't access anything. Whatever happened, we need to fix this. Call me back. 10:15 a.m., email to Marshall Systems from Jessica in HR. Ms. Marshall, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Please contact us urgently so we can resolve this situation. Misunderstanding. Such an interesting word choice. By noon, I had 47 missed calls, 63 text messages, and 22 emails. The last one, from their general counsel, was my favorite. Ms. Marshall, your deliberate sabotage of our systems constitutes criminal interference with business operations. Unless normal access is restored immediately, we will pursue all available legal remedies. I forwarded it to my lawyer, who'd been expecting it. His response was swift. They're posturing. You operated entirely within the contract terms. Let me know when they're ready to negotiate a new license. Fair market value for a system supporting that many users? Mid-six figures. Minimum. Mid-six figures. Not bad for a slow dinosaur. I spent the afternoon repotting orchids, ignoring the increasingly frantic attempts to reach me. Let them sweat. Let them understand what it felt like to be powerless, ignored, disposable. Let them remember who really kept their world running. Saturday morning found me at the farmer's market, selecting heirloom tomatoes for the garden. My phone, tucked deep in my purse, buzzed incessantly. I'd stopped counting the calls after they passed 100. The orchid vendor, Mrs. Peck, noticed my persistent ringtone. Someone really wants to reach you. Someone should have thought of that before, I said, selecting a stunning white phalaenopsis. By the time I got home, there were 3 cars parked outside my house, Shayla's white Mercedes, Brad's Tesla, and a Blacktown car that screamed, lawyer. They were huddled on my porch like lost puppies. Gentlemen, Shayla. I walked past them to unlock my door, arms full of flowers and produce. You're trespassing. Elaine, please. Shayla's polished veneer had cracked. Her perfect makeup was smudged, her silk blouse wrinkled. We need to talk. We talked last Friday. You gave me 4 minutes. I'm afraid I don't have that much time today. Our entire firm is paralyzed. Brad burst out. We can't access client files, can't bill hours, can't even check our calendars. Do you have any idea what this is costing us? About $50,000 an hour, based on your standard billing rates. I set my bags down on the porch table. Though I suppose you can't invoice for time, you can't document. The lawyer, Mitchell something, I recognized him now, stepped forward. Ms. Marshall, I'm sure we can resolve this professionally. What are your terms? My terms? I arranged the orchids in their carrier, taking my time. My terms were in the renewal notice. $5,000 annually. Very reasonable for enterprise software. That was before, Shayla started. Before you fired me? Yes, that was a game changer, wasn't it? I finally looked at her directly. Tell me, how's Kayla working out? Is she handling the transition well? Shayla's face flushed. She marked your notices as spam. Ah, I picked up my bags. Well, I suppose that's what you get when you hire for youth over experience. Name your price, Mitchell said bluntly. What will it take to restore access? I'd been thinking about this moment for a week. The number my lawyer suggested was fair market value, but this wasn't about fair anymore. $500,000. The silence was delicious. That's insane, Brad sputtered. For a documentation system? For a comprehensive practice management platform that handles documents, billing, scheduling, conflicts checking, client communications, and trust accounting for 60 attorneys. For the 14 years of updates and maintenance. For the guarantee that your client data hasn't been compromised. For the immediate restoration of access to files you need for Monday's court deadlines. I watched that last point hit home. Monday. They had briefs due, closings scheduled, depositions planned, all requiring documents they couldn't access. We could hire a team to crack it, Shayla said desperately. You could try. I smiled. Of course, that would violate the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. And it would take months, maybe years. How many clients will you have left by then? Mitchell touched Shayla's arm, shutting her up. We'll need to see proof of ownership, licensing documentation, code verification. Of course. I pulled out my phone and forwarded him a zip file. Everything you need is there, including the original contract your founding partners signed. You have my lawyer's contact information. This is extortion, Shayla hissed. No, I said calmly. This is capitalism. You decided I was worthless, so you threw me away. Turns out you were wrong about my value. Simple market correction. I headed for my door. You have until Monday at 9 a.m. to transfer the funds. After that, the price goes up. Another 100,000 for each day you delay. Wait, Brad called out. What about an installment plan? The firm's cash flow wasn't my concern when you eliminated my position to save money. I turned the key in my lock. Though I do appreciate the irony, you'll have to explain to the partners how firing a 47-year-old secretary cost them $500,000 in one day. Plus legal fees, Mitchell muttered, earning glares from both Shayla and Brad. There is one more thing, I said, pausing in my doorway. The NDA you had me sign? It prevents me from disclosing proprietary information about Bramwell and Knox, but it says nothing about discussing my own intellectual property. Something to keep in mind if you're thinking about trying to play hardball. I went inside and closed the door on their shocked faces. Through the window, I watched them argue in my driveway for another 20 minutes before driving away. My phone rang. It was my lawyer. They're ready to pay, full amount, wire transfer Monday morning. That was fast. They did the math. Every hour costs them more than your asking price. Smart of you to encrypt rather than delete. Keeps it civil. Smart, not bad for a slow dinosaur who couldn't keep up with the times. Monday morning came with a wire transfer notification at 8:47 a.m. $500,000 from Bramwell and Knox, LLC to Marshall Systems, LLC, clean, simple. And 13 minutes before my deadline. They'd learned something about punctuality. My lawyer called at 8:52 a.m. They want immediate restoration of access and a written guarantee that you haven't copied or retained any of their data. They'll have access within 30 minutes of signing the new license agreement, I said, pulling up the document I'd prepared over the weekend. As for their data, I've never copied a single file. eLock's encryption protocols prevent even administrator access to content. I built it that way to protect client confidentiality. They won't like the new terms. They'll sign. I forwarded him the contract. They don't have a choice. The new agreement was ironclad. Marshall Systems retained full ownership of eLock. Bramwell and Knox received a non-transferable license. Any future updates or maintenance would be negotiated separately. And buried in Section 12.4, a small but crucial clause. Any attempt to reverse engineer, copy, or create derivative works from eLock would result in immediate termination and a $1 million penalty. By 10 a.m., I had their signatures and had restored their access. The relief in Mitchell's voice when he called to confirm was almost pitiful. Everything's working. Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Just business, Mr. Mitchell. I spent the rest of the morning setting up Marshall Systems as a proper LLC, business bank account, tax ID, professional liability insurance. What had started as a side project was now a very real company with one very lucrative client. My phone rang just after lunch. A number I recognized but hadn't seen in years. Elaine, it's Robert Bramwell, the founding partner. 81 years old, semi-retired, the last of the 3 men who'd started the firm in that Victorian house. Hello, Robert. I'm in town for the quarterly board meeting. Just heard about our little situation. Mind if I stop by? An hour later, Robert Bramwell sat in my living room. Looking older but still sharp in his trademark bow tie, he studied the eLock documentation I'd shown him. I remember when you built this, he said quietly. You worked weekends for months. Wouldn't take a penny extra in salary. I was younger then, more idealistic. You saved us, you know. We were drowning in paper, losing clients to bigger firms with better systems. Then you walked in with this solution you'd created out of thin air. He set down the papers. I'm sorry, Elaine, about how they treated you. You weren't there. No, but I signed off on bringing in Shayla. Thought fresh blood would be good for the firm. He laughed bitterly. Fresh blood. They almost bled us dry in one weekend. We sat in comfortable silence, 2 relics from a different era. They want to fire her, he said eventually. The equity partners are furious. $500,000 because she couldn't recognize the value of what was right in front of her. It wasn't just about recognition, I said. It was about respect. I gave that firm 22 years. I deserved better than being called a dinosaur and shown the door. You did. He stood to leave, then paused. You know, I'm still on the board. Still have a vote. If you wanted to come back. No. The word came out firmer than I'd intended. Thank you, Robert. But no, I'm done being furniture in someone else's office. He nodded, understanding. What will you do now? I looked at my laptop, where 3 inquiries from other law firms had already come in. Word traveled fast in Austin's legal community. I'm thinking of expanding Marshall Systems. Seems there's a market for document management solutions designed by someone who actually understands how law firms work. Designed by a dinosaur who evolved? He smiled. I like it. Send me your business card when you get them printed. Might know some firms that could use your help. After he left, I sat at my desk and drafted a simple website for Marshall Systems. No stock photos of young people in suits high-fiving. No buzzwords about synergy or disruption. Just a clean interface and a single tagline. Enterprise software built by experience, not assumptions. By evening, I had 2 meetings scheduled with firms looking to upgrade their systems. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Ms. Marshall, this is Kayla Burns. I wanted to apologize. I didn't know about the emails or the system. I'm so sorry for my part in this. They're making me handle all the contract reviews now since I missed yours. I'm drowning. You were doing the work of 3 people. I had no idea. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let her drown in the chaos she'd helped create. But I remembered being young and overwhelmed, thrown into situations beyond my depth. Ctrl+F is your friend for contract reviews. I typed back. Search for termination, renewal, liability, and ownership. Flag anything you don't understand. And Kayla, never mark vendor emails as spam without reading them first. Thank you. And Ms. Marshall? You're not a dinosaur. You're a legend. Everyone here knows it now. A legend. I smiled, pouring myself a glass of wine to toast my new company. Not bad for my first week of self-employment. 6 months later, I stood in the departure lounge at Austin Bergstrom International Airport, waiting for my flight to Burlington, Vermont. Fall would be beautiful there, and I'd earned this vacation 10 times over. Marshall Systems now had 12 clients and 2 part-time developers. I'd hired them specifically, Margaret, 55, laid off from Dell, and Thomas, 62. Retired from IBM. We called ourselves the Dinosaur Squad in our private Slack channel. Our combined experience meant we built systems that actually worked the first time. My phone buzzed. Another LinkedIn notification, the 20th this week, from recruiters wanting to know if I was interested in exciting opportunities. I archived it without reading. I was creating my own opportunities now. Excuse me, are you Elaine Marshall? I looked up to find a woman about my age, professional but tired-looking. Yes? I thought so. I'm Jennifer Liu from Hartman Associates. I heard you speak at the Legal Tech Conference last month. She hesitated. I'm facing a similar situation at my firm. They're bringing in consultants to modernize, and I can see the writing on the wall for anyone over 45. I'd been getting these approaches regularly since word spread about the Bramwell and Knox incident. Women who'd spent decades building systems, maintaining relationships, keeping firms running, only to be deemed expendable when someone younger could do it cheaper, even if they couldn't do it better. Document everything, I told her. Every system you've built, every process you've created, every password you manage. Make sure you know what's company property and what's yours. And Jennifer, start building something for yourself now, before they push you out. She thanked me and hurried off to her gate. I made a mental note to follow up with her when I got back. Maybe the Dinosaur Squad needed another member. Ma'am, we're ready to board. I gathered my things, smiling at being called ma'am by the gate agent who looked all of 22. Once, that might have bothered me, made me feel old and irrelevant. Now, I'd earned every gray hair, every line around my eyes. They were proof of experience, resilience, and the wisdom to know my own worth. Settling into my first-class seat, a luxury I could now afford, I pulled out my laptop to check one last email. It was from Robert Bramwell. Elaine, thought you'd want to know. Shayla submitted her resignation yesterday, moving to a tech startup where I'm sure they'll appreciate her innovative mindset. Kayla Burns has been promoted to executive administrator. She asked me to pass along that she's implemented backup protocols for all vendor contracts and actually reads every email now. The firm survived, but barely. We won't forget the lesson. Enjoy Vermont. You've earned it. Robert. I closed the laptop and accepted a glass of champagne from the flight attendant, outside the window. Austin grew smaller as we climbed toward cruising altitude. Somewhere down there, Bramwell and Knox was running smoothly on my software, paying their monthly license fee on time, never again taking their systems, or the people who built them, for granted. What brings you to Vermont? My seatmate asked, a friendly woman with silver hair and an expensive watch. The question I'd been asked so many times when I was a secretary, what do you do? But now I had a different answer. I run a software company, I said, savoring the words. We specialize in making sure businesses understand the value of their most experienced assets. Oh, how interesting. I'm actually looking for a new system for my firm. I smiled and handed her my business card, the ones Robert had suggested I print, with the title I'd chosen for myself. Elaine Marshall, founder and CEO. Marshall Systems, LLC. Not bad for a dinosaur who refused to go extinct. As we flew toward my well-deserved vacation, I thought about all the Elaines out there. Competent, experienced, undervalued, and overlooked. The ones holding companies together while being told they're too old, too slow, too set in their ways. To them, I had one message. Document everything. Know your worth. And never, ever let them forget that experience isn't obsolete. It's invaluable. Sometimes it just takes locking them out of their own kingdom to make them remember who really holds the keys. The flight attendant refilled my champagne, and I raised it in a silent toast. To all the dinosaurs who evolved, who adapted, who showed them that wisdom and experience aren't liabilities. They're the most valuable assets a company can have. They just usually don't realize it until it's gone. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If you enjoyed this tale of sweet workplace revenge, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Have you ever felt undervalued at work? What would you have done in Elaine's position? Let me know in the comments.